Deleted Session, July 19, 1972. Good evening. Now, we will have a relatively brief session, but I would like to give you some important immediate points to work on. Not that I did not give you enough the other evening. Ruben must see the more he does physically, the more physically agile he will become. His physical reassurance is necessary. That is, he needs to be reassured that physically he can improve and perform. Telling him that you are suddenly made enough or angry enough to insist upon changes is absolutely not the approach. He thought you were angry enough to begin with. Physical improvement, now, in that context, means something else you were demanding, but did not expect. Loving encouragement will work because of the material given the other evening, and Ruben's own background. This is what happened in the past. He would manage to show some improvement as your attitude became more loving. He was still looking for signs that you meant the change. Do you follow me? Rob said, yes. They said, when you showed impatience with his progress, it was sometimes a natural impatience, and sometimes Nibbin's dissatisfaction with a student who should, with those abilities, do better. Ruben would indeed perceive withering looks on social occasions. Neither of you properly understood your own reactions, but Ruben would inevitably panic. After all, you did disapprove. You were not pleased with his performance. He was not living up to your expectations. He equated then a normal physical performance, from the standpoint of his condition, as an impossible perfect performance, while feeling that nothing short of perfection would please you. I am bringing this out so that you understand, both of you. You would insist he overreacted, that no one should be that suggestible. He would think of the abject label again, have no use for himself, and think the whole thing useless. If at the same time you seemed overly critical to him, now, of a manuscript, say, or his missing sessions, then it seemed approval was denied him from the one person whose integrity he trusted. In his own way, of course, he is also a perfectionist, and felt himself falling far short. Do not stress so much that he must go out, as much as things you go out for, to your bars, shopping, or whatever. The stimuli encountered outside will automatically meet response and bring up other reasons for going out. The stimuli now is very limited. Once he is in stores, for example, the urge to buy is renewed. The mind automatically turns to things it would like. Having a drink together in the yard is different than going out, because it is the spontaneity of going that is to be encouraged. The difficulty showed itself in Ruben in keeping with the style of life that you were both accustomed to. You did not go out without a reason. The idea was to avoid chores, time taken from work, ordinary mixing with neighbors. You never felt a responsibility to go out, but a responsibility to stay home and work. To tell Ruben he has a responsibility to go out is a new idea. Instead, reignite the normal spontaneous desires, he had to go out, despite the responsibility he felt he had to stay in. He always felt guilty taking a sunbath. For instance, both of you had to acquiesce to some extent in the situation. He did not choose, for example, a way of action, even physically, that would go against your style of life or ideas, but cleverly wove these into ideas you both initially deeply believed in. When you were working particularly and artistic, you could not say he was out gadding around and not using his abilities. There he was in his chair. He could not leave it. Now, give us a moment. The insights he received yesterday were quite legitimate, and show why he went along so readily with your projections. Earlier, his own spontaneous nature, his desire for social intercourse, his simple love of fun, were strong enough to overcome the inner feelings that made him shy away from people. When these were undermined, the inferiorities arose and he began to avoid people. You seemed to have no use for neighborliness. Particularly, this went along with ideas of dedication to work. In here, you need a note concerning Rupert's insights of yesterday. He is not to be babied. I am not saying that. The emotional encouragement, however, is important. He felt earlier that you withheld it because you had little use for anyone who needed it. That to request it was impossible to begin with. You could not demand it. In the main, he felt that you would have even less use for him, that you valued individual independence, and the pride of making it alone too much. The car lost was lost, no incidents any more than your behavior during the flood. You know you chose the situation. It is important that a new car be purchased as soon as possible. He felt that the last one was purchased by you in order to reach your parents. Begrudgingly, that you would not have purchased a new one for him, for example. This has its roots with the Lincoln. You follow me? And later, when you did not offer to pick him up at nursery school, and told him in the same situation, you would have too much pride to accept a ride. I am mentioning this. Some are details. They are important. If you or Nibin ever thought that objective details were important, then see how important Rupert thinks subjective one's area. You lit cigarettes for him, particularly when you were in public, but you did not open the car door unless he asked you, or reminded you, when that hurt or humiliated him. Lighting his own cigarette in public was the one wild gesture of independence he allowed himself, because you made such a point of lighting it for him. He was saying, in big things, where I need help, you often refuse to help, and your help is a gesture, as when you light my cigarette, when I can do that myself. So if Nibin is a stickler for details and carries grudges, so did our friend. Now, you may take a break, and do not let me keep you too long. Rob said, I am okay. Seth said, the whole thing boils down to the fact that he thought and felt you would not help him, but demand that he use his own abilities, and help himself independently of you. You held his arm once as he crossed a busy street. In, I believe, cable skill, and he never forgot it. At other times, you would say, "Be careful," impatiently. "Watch where you are going. Don't you see that car?" When he simply could not turn that quickly, and was terrified. There were other occasions when you held his arm and helped him, and he remembers each one. His idea was to chart his course, hope he could reach the other side of the street, and that the cars could see him. He is deeply ashamed to have you see him go downstairs, because he fears your disapproval. He is afraid you will see him as he is, then, and wash your hands of such imperfection. For you to offer to help him would be of great benefit on the stairs when no one is around. Ralph said, "I thought he didn't want me to. He's told me that often." Seth said, "He is afraid too. But if you saw the worst, as he thinks of it, and accepted him as he is, then help him. He can be pleased to show you any improvement. The improvement will follow if my suggestions are followed, and if both of you understand the reasons as given." Now, some of these extreme reactions on Rupert's part were brought about by his psychic understanding of Libby, so he could not adequately communicate with you. If you reacted as Libby, you would later rationalize the results to him, while he would know in that instance he was not projecting, so he could not trace his reactions toward you. Your explanations of a Libby reaction would be so reasonable later. You could not understand his insistence that you gave him a withering look, but he felt it with the vehemence behind it. Against that he became vehement himself, stubborn, and determined to find in you a quality that on the other hand he did not honestly think you possessed. This put him on guard, so that he would then often misinterpret ordinary remarks that you made. Had the two of you not let your own communication lag, such misunderstandings would not have occurred. Rupert dispensed with our sessions on a regular basis with a vengeance after Libby showed himself. Toward the end of the book, Seth speaks in the living room. Now, all of this can be remedied by interaction on both of your parts, and the willingness on both of your parts to give and take, and not be afraid. Both of you often try to hide in your work from normally daily intercourse with others, and to make your work carry the burden of your humanity. That can only dehumanize your art when carried to the extremes. I am not telling you that dedication to work is not good, as you know, but it cannot take the place of all other human interest and communication. Now, I bid you a good evening, and there are still other sessions that both of you can read to your advantage. Ralph noted, meaning deleted ones. They said, "And someday you will not need me to interpret your feelings to each other. You will do it quite directly, and our sessions will be on other matters." Ralph said, "Thank you, Seth. Good night."